Hello and welcome back to the Why Carbs Won't Make You Fat podcast. I'm back. Josh is back.
Hello.
Spring has sprung in the UK this
Mm.
week. I was just saying to Josh, to open up the gym at like 6 a.m. this morning, it was 1 degree.
Hmm.
As I left just after lunchtime, it was 21 degrees. So talk about a full swing. I also, as I left yesterday, I left my coat, I left my jumper. So I didn't then have my coat to go to work in, so I was freezing when I got there,
Oh
but that's
no.
my own fault. Yeah, perils of this time of year
Mm.
in a sunny April in the UK. What
Hmm.
normally happens as a cricketer, April is glorious.
Yes.
Like the first week of May is normally the last pre-season friendly game, so that's
Hmm.
normally all right. And then second week of May is the first league game, and it rains a lot.
Hmm.
There's my Nostradamus-like prediction for the weather this summer,
Hmm.
mostly built on skepticism and
Being British.
a history of watching it rain whilst playing cricket. How's your week been, Josh?
Yeah, it's been busy. Fair few nutrition check-ins, and then we're kind
Nice.
of to a point where people are having their body composition checks and just reiterating like stay the course and
Yeah.
to do to many changes to what you're already doing because it seems to be moving in the right direction and things like that. Because there are those that just want to speed up the process, whatever that may be.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So like one bloke this morning, he's incredibly numbers focused, and whenever he does an in body, it's like, okay, what's the weight, muscle mass, body fat, and what's my old visceral fat, and then what's my
Mm.
in body score because it gives you something out of 100.
Yeah, right. I see.
And it was minimal change, and like the slight drop in muscle mass, I'd say, was more down to hydration, but his
Mm.
weight had come down and his body fat had come down, but not nearly in the amount he wanted to. And he's like, I'm training really hard and I'm really making a point with my nutrition. And for his work, he does travel quite a bit.
Yeah.
And where he was going in Luxembourg, particularly for breakfast, it's pretty much pastries and croissants, things like that.
Yeah.
So I suggested take some travel protein powder or something like
Mm.
that, so you can still have a croissant if that's the
Yeah,
form
yeah.
that's available, but you can get some protein into. But also explaining that it does take time to build muscle, and then he went and hit a pretty comfortable 145 kilo trap bar deadlift for a set of eight.
Decent. Yeah, very decent.
I'm like, pick your wins, and
Yeah. Yeah,
then like his
literally.
his clothes are feeling different and all those kinds of things. So I was like, okay, there are other variables to be pleased with rather than just focusing on what the printout is giving you.
Yeah, there's always other
And
things.
he's also like really actively trying to eat less sweets because that's one of his main things. Because if he's bored, he'll snack,
Yeah,
or
okay.
like cooking something, and he gets a bit impatient. He'll snack on something, and he usually tends to opt for sweeter options than
Mm.
other options. So that behavior change, I think, is pretty important for him too. So,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, I saw, I'll talk about him a few times on this pod probably, but I saw Tom Bainbridge post the other day. He was like, I think he was doing a little reel and he was talking about rates of progress.
uh-huh.
He's like, look, you like half a kilo every other week is very normal.
Hmm.
That's what progress looks like. You might in a fat loss phase, so you might lose half a kilo 1 week, you might lose nothing the next week. You might in that week that you lose nothing on the scales, you might lose a centimeter off the stomach.
Hmm.
But half a kilo every other week for 52 weeks does stack up.
Hmm.
Centimeter off the stomach every other week, 52 weeks does stack up. That's a huge difference over time. And that's like, sure, that's at the bottom end, but that is very normal for someone
Hmm.
who is busy, not very active, isn't very tall. And, obviously everybody always wants to go quicker,
Hmm.
but the amount of people that I work with, especially ladies, who are like, oh, this has made my whole relationship with the scales and food so much better.
Hmm.
And all that's changed is someone like me or you, Josh, like giving them some feedback and encouraging them to stay patient.
Hmm.
and highlighting the bits where they are making progress that they can't see.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it would, again, we'll talk about Instagram being slightly fake in a bit as well, but like we all have this perception of people's rate of progress. I don't know whether I said it last week, but I was like, so I've been trying to learn kipping toes to bar, which is very
Yes.
crossfitty. And I could do toes to bar without the kip,
Hmm.
which then made not being able to do kipping toes to bar really frustrating because I was nowhere near the bar. And I was like, but I can do them the other way. But they're quicker and more efficient if you kip,
Yeah.
especially if you then want to do like partner work and stuff where you synchronize them.
Yep.
And so yeah, so I was in the gym the other day and I was doing some in a like a Metcon thing, which was the first time I actually got them because I wasn't thinking about it. It wasn't like skill based. I wasn't trying to train the skill. I was just trying to do it,
Hmm.
sort of turn the brain off. But like a few weeks down the line, I'm doing them. I'm like, oh, how did Tim get good at them?
Uh-huh.
It's like, well, 3 times a week for the last 2 months is how.
Yes.
Oh, but what else? Is it the kipping mitts? No. Is it this? What drill? Yeah, you do the drills, absolutely,
Hmm.
but you do them.
Yes.
Like you don't go from. I mean, some people out there will go from A to B a lot quicker than you,
Hmm.
but we can't. What can you do about that? There's one girl that trains with us who picks it up really quickly. She's like mentally good. You give like a cue. She's quite new to weightlifting. I gave her a cue
Right.
this morning and she just did it. I was like,
Oh,
that's
shit.
right. Okay, good.
Mm.
Like, and to be honest, I have this habit of like showing people as I talk. So how I
Uh-huh.
coach.
Sure.
But I guarantee you, if I'd have just said to her what I wanted her to do, she'd have done it.
Hmm.
But that's very freaky. That is very unusual. Makes her
Yeah.
really easy to coach. But again, like that isn't me.
No.
If I was at her, learning at the same stage as her,
Hmm.
that wouldn't work with me. 100%. I'd have
Right.
to practice it a shitload more times. I'd have to
Mm.
see it. I'd have to feel it. Just everyone's different, right?
Definitely, yeah. No, I do something very similar because the population I'm working with, if I throw names at them, like we had front foot elevated arse to grass split squats today. And if I
Nice.
throw that at them, or even with the abbreviated version, as it says on the board of FFE, ATG, SS, or whatever, they're just
So
going
I
to look,
was thinking what the acronym was.
yeah, they're just going to look at me gormless. So it's like, okay, this is what the thing is, and yeah, yeah, every single exercise do it that way because majority of people are visual learners, unless you get some, like in your case, someone who takes things intuitively and just
Mm.
applies it right away, which is the dream, but it's not always the case.
Was it like it's some ridiculous number, isn't it, that people percentage of visual learners?
Hmm.
I wouldn't say it's 70%, but it might even be more than that. I'm gonna ask Google how many people are visual learners. Right. How many people are visual learners? Approximately 65%. Oh, boom. There we go. What a useless fact to be able to remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, approximately 65%. So
Hmm.
there we go. Um, yeah, which is why pictures tell 1,000 words, as
Hmm.
the sort of fable would say. What I learned from listening back to the last podcast is when I'm Googling something to say what I'm doing, even though I
Oh,
know and you know.
yep.
Otherwise, there's this big gap in the podcast where
Yeah.
it's like, has it cut out? Is Tim talking?
Pause.
Um,
Pause.
pause. Yeah, you are on hold.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Let's get into the meat of it. So I think, Josh, you want to talk a little bit about cortisol. So let's get into that one.
Yeah, because it can kind of tie nicely into the grinding gears section, or
Mm.
be a facet of it at
Oh
least.
yeah.
But it's goes along with the movie trailer like advertisements with Diary of a CEO or other
Mm.
people of that ilk who have insert expert or specialist into the title and talking how insulin spikes or cortisol spikes or spiking your glucose are causes for weight gain. And there was a good post from ESG that I was
Mm.
just kind of going through her feed because I haven't seen her pop well, just because my algorithm or whatever hadn't really popped up in a while, but I was just seeing what stuff she'd been putting out there. And there's some really good things, and it kind of ties a little bit into that. strict university study I mentioned a few episodes back, where it was looking at metabolism not actually slowing as you get older until you're very near the late end stages of life,
Yeah.
and um, and it just plateauing from 20 to 60, and it more being your behaviors. And there's a number of like people I work with who have high stress jobs, and
Hmm.
um, and they struggle with weight, trying to shift weight, and we go through the conversation of, unfortunately, we can't spot reduce weight, but we can try
No.
and manipulate our behaviors, create sustainable lifestyle habits, not just related to the nutrition. Obviously, that's very important, but getting a sleeping schedule or a routine at least, um, doing things that can calm you down, whether that be reading.
Yeah.
Like, if someone has a high stress job, the last thing they want to do is think anymore about what that already is. And so if it's related to finance and they're in a fintech company or something,
Mm.
read about something else or listen to something else, listen to some music or anything like that. But coming back to the cortisol thing, um, the only thing that will be causing any kind of gain of fat is a calorie surplus and nothing else.
Yeah.
Because yes, it's a hormone that gets released, but it's not a form of energy.
No,
Um,
exactly. Um, yeah. So, I mean, again, energy in equals energy out. And you can't, like, a fundamental law of the universe is you can't create energy from nowhere.
mhm,
And if we could, we wouldn't need petrol, right?
mm,
And we wouldn't need to burn fossil fuels and have the pollutant effect because we could create energy from fresh air and
mhm,
a lot of the world's problems would be solved. But that's just not how science works. Um, Maybe one day that will be disproved, but I think
mhm,
very unlikely, in my opinion. Um, but then it comes down to like hormones do influence behavior.
mm,
So quite often it's sort of like when people are like, oh, that person's really stressed. There's probably like this, oh, like old school image of person's really stressed, gets really thin because they're not eating.
mm,
Now, eating releases dopamine, which is nice, and people comfort eat, right? So there's one mechanism.
mm,
If you're stressed, you're probably got a million and one plates in the air, and probably for a lot of people, exercise and nutrition will slide.
mm,
Again, behavior influence. Are you sleeping well when you're stressed? Probably not. If you're tired, you get hungrier.
mhm.
We're not monitoring the in because, and that's another stressor to monitor the in. So we might knock that on the head as well. And in terms, I mean, like calories in or
Yeah.
portion control, whatever that is. Like, all right, you get back from the office at 10 o'clock at night. You're not cooking, right? You
Mm,
go pick up Deliveroo, ordering something, whatever. You're probably starving, hungry, you haven't eaten for ages. Again, stress, right? Stress and behaviors. The one part where it's interesting in terms of how hormones interact is cortisol and leptin can have this inverse relationship. Just kind of Googled it a little bit to get my head around it because like my colleague Helen talks about this a little bit and it's like
mhm.
she'll be on the podcast at some point actually.
Oh, cool.
I've got a date, Josh. I'll give you the date later.
Brilliant.
So leptin helps to regulate your energy balance.
Mm,
Doesn't regulate your energy balance by taking energy away magically. It regulates your energy balance by influencing your appetite.
mhm,
So if leptin is high, it suppresses appetite. Okay, I think that's right. Signals the brain. So, I'll read it out. Leptin helps regulate energy balance by influencing appetite and metabolism. It signals to the brain to suppress appetite and increase energy expenditure when fat stores are high. Okay, so that's
mhm.
like our inbuilt mechanism of we don't need to eat anymore. We've got enough stored energy, right?
Yeah.
Cortisol is released during stress and can increase appetite and promote fat storage. It also increases the release of other hormones, including leptin. Studies suggest that higher cortisol levels can lead to lower leptin levels, potentially contributing to weight levels. So, as like it
Mm,
basically messes up, being stressed messes up your hunger signals and tells
mm,
you that you're not full when you've had enough food, right? Is what that's saying. So, again, it's not making energy from being stressed, isn't directly, no, high stress doesn't put slabs of body fat on you,
Mm.
but it makes you eat more.
Mhm.
And although it's harder to do so, if the mechanism is eating more, you get to control that. Whereas it's quite disempowering to be like, quite often you can't control a lot of stress without a lot of work.
Yeah.
And so then it leaves you in this situation of like, oh, I'm just stressed. It's me. I'm doomed to that scenario. I've got a really high stress job. I can't do anything about it,
Mhm.
which it's harder, but you can, is what I'm getting at in
Yeah.
the nicest possible way.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a number of clients I've been working with, um, and talking about the leptin and ghrelin balances because it was more relating to asking all the variables basically, and then I knew what the case was of not being completely transparent with what they were consuming on a daily basis. It was like 2 days of 2 or 3 days of good or tracking well, and
Yeah.
then rest of the week was kind of pissed up the wall essentially. And then it was kind of talking about that ghrelin and leptin levels and how it might vary from population to population. Like
Yeah.
um, Caucasians actually have quite a high propensity for imbalances, and then it gets kind of lesser and lesser as you go to Africa and then
Okay. Interesting.
Southern Asia and things like that. Um, but when I mentioned that, this individual kind of latched onto that sort of thing. It's like, oh, maybe that's me,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's kind of giving a name at least or a label to something that be could be a thing to be checked or
Yeah.
found out about, but for the most part, it can be a lot simpler and dealing with the lowest hanging fruit, uh,
100%.
like with all things, because it would be all very nice if it was like, oh, it's this thing, and then if I go to see someone to sort out that thing, it will get fixed, but it will not. It's usually a sort of lot simpler than that. It's
Yeah.
just a bit harder, like you were saying.
It's like the bullshit test you get where it's like, we'll do a genetic profile to tell you how to eat. Piss
Yeah.
off. That's rubbish. Absolute
Mhm.
rubbish. Oh, how much does that cost? Oh, 200 quid. Oh,
Yeah.
right. Fine. Great. That's good value, isn't it? For something that's absolutely fucking useless. Why does it cost 200 quid? Oh, well, because the person we're telling you to push it to the customer is getting a big cut and we're getting the rest of it.
Yep.
Costs a fiver.
Hmm.
Probably goes to a lab, gets thrown in a safe disposal, and then just report pulled out of filing cabinet and put in the post.
Yeah.
Yeah, but people like silver bullets. Well,
They
we would all have a silver bullet, let's be honest, but
do.
they don't work. It's a
No.
waste of money.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, so okay, interesting. Like I guess another thing, like well, probably the other topic we're going to talk about a little bit was on a hormone kind of vibe is weight loss during menopause.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a few. There's one lady I've worked with who's started off and she's perimenopausal and then she went into menopause and then she got onto HRT and her initial ratio um, was off and she felt like shit. And so went back to her doctors. They tweaked those things and we also had a bit of a look in with her nutrition and
Hmm.
gave her a target to hit, a protein target to hit, and then backfill with fat and carbs, and just portion sizing was the main thing,
Yeah,
and trying to keep consistent even when working. And she did that, and combined with her HRT protocol, she then started to see her more mainly her midriff starting to shrink, which is what she wanted because that's always been
yeah,
the stubborn thing that's been preventing her from weight loss things in the past or fat loss things in the past. And now there's kind of a new influx of a couple of women around a similar sort of age who are having that same sort of struggle,
hmm
and another one who's got hypothyroidism. And so doing my research into the different things that we could try. But
yeah,
the majority of the time, particularly with the hypothyroidism, is the BMR slows down. And so
yes,
ways in which we can increase that one of which is resistance training, which she's doing,
Mm.
food quality, and
Yeah.
then also um, quantity of protein. Like I think she could probably do more on that front, and that would again have a more positive effect. And if she can
Hmm.
regulate muscle mass, then her BMI will go up, and then hopefully gradual, we'll start to see some drop off on that front. And then another one who is again feels like her HRT is not doing the right sort of thing, so she's going back to her doctor for that.
Yeah.
But she's been following a more keto route, which
Mhm.
in some cases can work, but whether it's sustainable in the long run um, is debatable. But it was something that she wanted to try and continue doing so is open to other possibilities. And then a third lady who again is just wanting to shift the menopausal belly,
Hmm.
but struggling to do so. And when we talk about calorie tracking and things like that, she says I do it and I stick to it, but there's if it was being stuck to, we would have started to see
Sure. Yeah.
some shift in that direction with that one. So yeah, there's and it's obviously a very touchy subject, and particularly coming at it from being a bloke and
Yeah.
something I'll never experience, but trying to be
Same.
uh, sympathetic. Well, all of the pathy words to go along with it and try and help them along as best I can with that one.
Yeah, really interesting. I've worked with quite a few women who are going through the menopause, either pre or either perimenopausal or fully into the menopause.
Mm,
Um, so shit changes, stuff gets harder.
mm,
Stuff gets harder as you get older as well, but hormones shift around. That can then interfere with sleep, which we already talked about being a bad thing. It's make you feel crappy, can make you feel moody, like loads of other things. So that's where the HRT comes in because you're trying to the medical professionals are trying to rebalance the disbalance
mhm,
to help with those symptoms. The good thing to know that's empowering for a lot of ladies with menopause when they believe the science is that it doesn't affect you. Again, we talked about hormones. It doesn't change. It doesn't stop calorie balance working.
mhm,
What does happen is as the hormone pattern changes, you get. I'm never really sure if I like this term, but it is a good description. So you get more of what is referred to as a male pattern fat storage.
mhm.
You imagine like where a bloke carries their weight, it's all around their stomach and
Yeah.
pretty much nowhere else.
Mhm.
Generally, right? I mean,
More
it's
often
not
than
like
not, yeah.
the majority of the weight is carried around the stomach. Now, a woman who hasn't gone through the menopause and those hormones haven't changed typically carries her weight around her bum and her hips and maybe her bust. Okay, right, which is then, semantics, like more well, to a male eye is more flattering way to store it. I mean, many women would be like, "Oh, I'd like to reduce my hips," which is fine, but as the hormones change, then more of that fat distribution changes, and you get this kind of belly, which I can well imagine makes you feel like you've gained a load of fat that you probably
Mm.
haven't
Yeah.
to a degree. But then also, if we coincide that with all of the feelings of general crappiness
Mhm.
from that, and symptoms are very different from woman to woman, right? Then extra calories come in, and then it becomes like a spiral,
Mhm.
really, of horribleness and feeling lost and wanting to get out of it. But calorie deficit does work. Right? I have literally every single menopausal lady I've worked with that we've gotten into a calorie deficit has lost weight.
Mhm.
Right, hand on heart. Right, I'm looking at one of my clients here now, long timeline. Right, 16 centimeters off her navel,
Mhm.
12 centimeters off her hip, nearly 15 kilos lost, 86.9 kilos down to 72.2. She was a previous client who came back to me after she'd been through the menopause. So she
Mhm.
knew how to calorie track, she knew how to lose body fat, just like literally less accountability. But she convinced herself it was something different because she'd gone into the menopause, which I can understand.
Mhm.
But we've literally done fuck all any different.
Right.
We've tracked calories, we've checked in, we've taken body measurements, we've talked about barriers, we've talked about getting protein in.
Yeah.
Literally nothing was different between those two things
Hmm.
at all. Okay, that's very much n equals one, but every other woman, as I said, that I've worked with in the menopause who we've put in a calorie deficit,
Hmm.
who managed to keep in a calorie deficit, has lost body fat.
Yeah.
Right. So it is about that, but the hormones make a big difference. And again, like, doesn't it seems to be less so now, actually. I know when I first started nutrition coaching, there was still a little bit of like, there'd been some scaremongering around HRT.
Yes.
And I think that's not as bad anymore. And it is the right thing to do if that's what the doctor thinks,
Hmm.
as far as we know today. And if it helps with symptoms, it's going to help with adherence in terms of diet and exercise and things like that.
Hmm.
Thinking about as well the things you're talking about, there was like I was talking to one of my clients today, and in terms of tracking,
Hmm.
I'm quite lucky in a way that he comes in to see me because he works on site where we are. He comes in to see me, so I get to like see him
Hmm.
doing his calorie tracking and stuff, which you never get to do as a coach. Really, as a coach, it's really interesting. Um, so it's way easier for me to play detective with him. And then like today, it dawned on me. I was like, every week he comes in and he's like backfilling his diary because he's like, oh, I missed this day, I missed this day. I remember what I had, and I was like, and then he'd done it all. And then I was just like, I was literally thinking this as this happens quite a lot. I was thinking it and then he did it. He was like, oh yeah, I didn't put my snack in on that day. I was like, okay, here's the thing, right? You do it however you want, like, but we want to speed progress up from where we're at. It's like a continual kind of refinement of his tracking.
Hmm.
You do it however you want, but what works well for a lot of people is rather than rely on recall, especially a few days later. I haven't got a fucking clue what I ate yesterday, and I tracked all the calories for it.
Hmm.
Right? I'd have to go back and look. Right? I can't remember. So how am I going to remember if I were to then try and do that calorie tracking now, like 24 hours later? I'm not. I'm going to miss stuff out. What works for a lot of people is to find a time of day where they kind of plan out their meals. So you don't even need to use calorie tracking for this, where you plan out your meals and be like, that's what I'm going to eat tomorrow,
Hmm.
or that's what I'm going to eat today. My wife likes to do it over breakfast. Some people, so what we decided, my client, he was like, oh, after my daughter's in bed, and we've had dinner, we're relaxing, we just sit on the sofa and we do fuck all, and I'm on my phone. I've definitely got 5 minutes where I could put in what I'm going to eat tomorrow.
Hmm.
And the benefit of a digital diary is it's really easy to edit that as you go along. So you're like, oh, I don't fancy that, or I want to change that portion size, or I fancy a Twix rather than an apple. Right, that can be done really easily,
Hmm.
and we're not relying on that recall. Even like with like if you're not calorie tracking at all, planning your meals out is going to make you more adherent if you're not winging it day to day, which we probably talked about a million and one other times on the pod.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's those things. And I would say actually the other one, I was trying to remember what the other thing, three things I picked up from your three different clients.
Hmm.
As I understand it, and like Tom Bainbridge told me this when we were like learning from him, the medication for low thyroid function are very effective
Right.
at bringing it back to where it needs to be.
Hmm.
And again, another one of my menopausal clients had like a switch in thyroid function over her life.
Hmm.
So I remember her telling me, like, I wasn't working with her when she was like 21, but she's like, when I was younger, like at university, she's like, I was a dancer, I was really like petite, and I had hyperthyroidism.
Hmm.
So hyper, oh, like
Yeah.
above normal,
Yeah.
hypo, less than normal. I had to
Rapid
Google that to be
metabolism
sure.
and that.
But yeah, so her metabolism was like artificial, not artificially, but higher than normal.
Hmm.
But that's really bad for you because it can burn out a bunch of stuff within the body. She explained it to me, but like it's not good for you if you don't control that
Right.
and can be medicated. Conversely, hypo, less than normal thyroid function can be medicated as well. So that's like another layer of the onion. And I
Hmm.
wonder, I don't know, that would be very, if that is you, it's very worth a talk with your doctor about what they can do. Because I think there's multiple layers on a health perspective as well as just like weight gain.
Hmm.
Yeah, interestingly. And like Jordan Syatt says this a lot. He's like, if you think everything, like if you think calorie tracking doesn't work for whatever reason, if you think you are in the 0.5% in the world where there's an issue outside of calorie control. Go have
Hmm.
your thyroid checked. Great, that's a lot easier in America because you just throw money at everything in the medical system. But he's like,
Yeah.
go have your thyroid checked. If your thyroid function is normal, we now know what to do. And if it's not, we also know what to do because then the
Yeah.
doctor can help you out. But yeah, I'd imagine the majority of people don't have an issue with their thyroid function, but it's quite easy to check out and quite easily medicated, as I understand it.
Hmm. Interesting. Yes. Yeah. Lots of things to take away from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find myself so much on the pod when I'm talking about these things. I was like, we've done menopause before. I've talked about all these things, but I'm like, well, actually, like we've probably getting new listeners.
Mm.
Um, Probably forgotten the information already. And also, that's why a lot of the stuff in fitness and nutrition is absolute fucking bullshit. Because they're like, oh, well, the simple things we've told them 3 times already. So let's start making some shit up.
Yeah.
So I see it as a good sign to just keep banging the same drum. So hopefully that's
Yeah.
helpful and not too boring, guys. Hopefully we add enough flavor elsewhere to the facts.
Grinding gears?
Let's do some grinding gears. Go on, Josh. You got one you want to start on, or do you want me to go in all at it?
You crack on with it. Yeah.
Crack on. So Josh sent me. Josh quite often sends me reels. This is where, and to be honest, my gears haven't been particularly ground
Mm.
in day-to-day life over
Mm.
stuff I hear. However, social media tends to grind my gears more often, and so I try to stay away from it. Josh sends me these reels that to discuss for the podcast I pick,
My
and
algorithm is very different.
yeah, I think I've got various things. I had what came up on that I was just doom scrolling on this Discover feed, and I've started listening to loads more music on YouTube.
Right.
Mostly because one of my mates has set up a chat where we just send each other videos about music.
Mm.
So that algorithm's like, oh, this is different. I'll keep feeding you stuff. And it was like, who was it? It was this band that were playing The Offspring,
Hmm.
but they were like a redneck band. So he's got the proper
Banjo mandolin.
banjo like made out of a cardboard box and a washboard with a little bicycle bell on it.
Hmm.
They were bloody good. It was so good. I was like, oh, the internet's a wonderful thing, isn't it?
Mm.
Anyway, but then Josh sent me one of this guy, and he's in like this warehouse, and he's like, starts with this guy, and there's like these dumbbells in the warehouse, and he's like, oh look, this is like the 25. I was like, oh Christ, must be 25 pounds. It looks quite light, but it's basically a 25 kilo fake dumbbell.
Mm.
So he's like, the thing is like, and it kind of becomes apparent what they're talking about. And he's like, the thing is like, if we made that of polystyrene, like on the camera, it doesn't look like it's heavy. So we
Mm.
have to put a little bit of weight in. So it's actually a 15 kilo dumbbell, but we've written 25 on it. He
Mm.
goes, it's really popular with the influencers. And the guy starts doing curls with it. And you're like, oh, fucking hell. They're
Mm.
making that shit up as well.
Mm.
And then it cuts to the other guy who's actually like reposted the reel, doesn't it? And he's like, yeah, see, lots of stuff is fake on the internet. People are
Yeah.
taking steroids and saying they're not, they're airbrushing, and they're even using like fake, which I never considered to be a thing. And I was like, fucking hell,
Right.
this industry is
There's
brutal.
quite there's a big guy called Brad Castleberry. He's American, and he kind of became renowned as the fake weight guy
Great
on
guy.
Instagram and YouTube. Because
Not the shake weight guy. That would be.
no, give him one. I imagine he'll give it a good go. But yeah, lots of viral videos and pictures of him having 6, 7 plates aside on a squat or a
Yeah.
bench or deadlift or anything like that, and he would do it for reps or whatever. But the just knowing how barbells move and things like that, and the way plates move and also sound.
Shouldn't that be bending?
Yeah, and he's making it look hard because obviously he wants to make it look difficult, and he's a juiced out uh, bloke anyway. But I think he's must be under 6 foot or something like that because there's quite a few guys who go around fitness expos who call him out and he's fairly short.
It's Tom Cruise.
Yeah, and he just doubles down and everything.
Yeah, one of those.
And
Yeah.
then there are times where he goes to gyms and he's using Eleiko plates, and to my knowledge, there aren't any fake Eleiko plates out there.
Probably not. They've probably got a team of assassins who come around and shoot you for
Yeah. So
stealing their branding.
he'll do his movements with the Leico plates, and it's still impressive because it's a large amount of weight, but I think it's ever so slightly less than what he does on the previous
Mm,
viral
yeah.
videos and things like that. So people are always wanting to try and test him whenever they get him on camera.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's kind of been around for a little bit, and then there are some other ones. Uh, there's a fitness YouTube guy called Jesse James West. He does good content, and he kind of almost does a documentary style sort of thing in
Right.
his episodes. His personality. He seems like a very nice guy, but it's the character he portrays on camera can be a little irritating, uh,
Mm.
to me at least. But there's like a video of him training with Eddie Hall in a
Oh,
power
right.
gym somewhere, and he's just slapping on 45-pound plates, so roughly 20 kilo plates in our currency. And but he didn't tell Eddie that he was going to be using some fake weight. So he may have loaded up of real plate weight about 100 kilos, and then he slaps on another three 45 pounds on each side, so it
Right.
comes maybe just over allegedly 200 over 200 kilos, and then he starts repping it out, and Eddie's like, "Oh, that's pretty fucking impressive," because Jesse James West must be like body weight probably around mid 80s, high 80 kilos, or
Yeah.
maybe 90s or something, and he's in good shape too. And then he eventually reveals it to Eddie while he's unloading the plates. He throws one of them at him like a frisbee, and he's just like, "Oh, you shit!"
Yeah.
Kind
Jeez.
of a sweet take on it, but also
Yeah. Yeah.
that for and he's obviously made it very clear in the
Yeah. Good banter.
preface of his video that he's a fake, whereas other people be out there. I remember a Joe Rogan um, conversation some years ago. I think it was around COVID times, and he was talking about I think some representative from one of the states in America who was doing his bit to camera, and he was like shoulder pressing a 70-pound dumbbell or
Yeah.
something like that, which is heavy.
Yeah.
Uh, and Joe's like, no, people can really do that. Or no, he was curling it. He was curling it.
I
Sorry,
was curling it.
so curling a
Curling the
uh,
35s. Yeah.
yeah. And Joe was like, no, people can actually do that. And I'm like, all right, well, given that they're making fake dumbbells in warehouses in wherever, it could have been anything.
Yeah. Literally. Yeah. Yeah. Don't believe what you see on the internet, guys.
No.
Um, right. Next one. There's three things on my grinding gears. This was Tom Bainbridge was talking about this on his story. So this and it kind of follows on a little bit like from what we were talking about last week of
Mm,
the narrative that women need to train completely differently from men to get results. And his whole point was like we have got like decades of research about what works in fitness,
mm,
and it's very similar. He's like, don't get me wrong, like hormones influence stuff. Like around time of the month, you might feel a bit shitty. You might need to deload a little bit. You might need to eat a little bit. You might need to be a little bit looser with your nutrition to just feel better.
mm,
But outside of that, the same shit works for both sexes. Yes, there are subtle differences too. So females are relatively stronger in the lower body than the upper compared to men. Right, females tend to handle a little bit more volume better than men as well. So that's like reps. So that's where like quite often it's said that females tend to do well in CrossFit because it's high rep and it suits their kind of that like slight difference in physiology compared to
mm,
guys. But that's about it. Like so, like, I've got a client at the minute. She's not very strong in the upper body, like, and she wants to improve that. What am I doing with her? Well, we're doing all the same exercises that I do because I'm not very strong in the upper body either.
mm,
We're using the same principles of just more volume, different patterns, different movements, hammering technique, and just doing shitloads of it to
mm,
bring it up. Like that's how it works for both me and her, right?
mm,
And again, like I can think of like some of the girls at HQ. I think of one in particular that can sandbag to shoulder more than most of the guys in the classes. Not most of the strong men because they do
mm.
more of it. But again, all right. So should we train her differently? No. Well, we don't release that potential in her. She's a
Mm.
bit freaky as an athlete, but like, oh no, no, you've got to do a completely different protocol. It's like having, imagine doing a fitness class for a mixed group and being like, oh, girls to the left, guys to the right. Come on. I
Mm.
think most of the girls at our place would knock you out if you tried to put, like, they would very happily be a boys versus a girls team and try and beat the boys. That's very different. But
Yeah.
you try and tell them that, like, obviously, like, relative strengths are different, but
Mm.
you try and tell them they should be lifting lighter than they want to lift, for you would be slapped about the place. Um, yeah. Anything to add to that, Josh? I felt I ranted a little bit there, but
No, no, like there's because there are some people that I get in at work and they're like very new to strength training and they
sure.
sometimes come in with saying, I don't think weights are for me. And might not necessarily be what you enjoy, but some
Mm.
form of resistance will benefit both sexes. It really doesn't have to matter that much.
Thing is, anything that's new to you, if you're a bit crap at it because you're new, it's not going
Mm,
to feel great.
no,
If you can find some enjoyment in it, you're more likely to stick to it for longer term. And as you
mm,
get better, you'll probably enjoy it a little bit more.
mm,
But
yeah,
like again, I remember at university, like yeah, it seems baffling. This is how weak I was in the upper body as a
mhm,
like so I didn't really do any gym work.
yeah,
When was the gym with my mates? The first time I'd used any free weights, I used to just use machines at high school
right,
and just do body weight stuff.
mm,
Couldn't really do very many press ups, which is a big clue to what happened.
mm,
Got on the bench press, like I'll just warm up with a bar. Bar pinned me, couldn't get it off my chest.
mm,
20 kilo bar.
yeah, yeah,
Doesn't
mm.
pin me now,
No,
but yeah, I was like, so there's a stark example of yeah, it's fucking hard when you start from nowhere.
yeah,
Um, I'm trying to do handstands at the moment, which I'm awful at.
mm.
My and my colleague James just like the first time I tried to do one and kick up against the wall, I sort of fell over a little bit. And he started pissed himself, which was the right because that's just lit a fire in my ass of like I don't like to be defeated. And I still can't quite do them, but I'm getting better.
Mm.
Like one of the guys came the other day, it's like, you still doing your handstands every day? I was like, I'm not, but I'm going to do them tomorrow.
Yeah.
Um, so I've managed to get into a handstand with a bit of assistance from a soft box.
Okay,
I will then. No, yeah, it's definitely
this is
like
against the wall or freestanding?
against the wall. Yeah, against the wall. So I can do I can do a yoga headstand, whereas you got like bent arms and you prop
Yeah,
yourself into like a triangle. If you're watching on YouTube, I've made it, and you kind of rest your head on so your forearms are on the ground rather than your hands being on the ground.
yeah,
I can do that.
mm.
I just can't get my hips to stack over my shoulders when I do a handstand against the wall.
Yeah,
But by using the box, I can get them closer to being stacked and then bring my leg up with more control, which makes me feel less like I'm going to fall over despite the fact the wall's there.
yeah.
It's like, it's very much living rent free in my head and I don't want
Yes.
to let it. So I'll get there. But again, like, yeah, I don't necessarily enjoy doing them,
No.
but I enjoy the result of getting better at them.
Mm.
Right? So,
So there was a workout I remember years ago doing at the CrossFit gym I was at, and it had three movements. You had wall ball shots, a power clean, and then three strict handstand push-ups or something like that, but for
yeah.
multiple rounds. And um, handstand push-ups, kipping or otherwise,
Yeah.
they're just fucking hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There definitely benefits from someone with shorter arms and being
Yes.
lighter. But I really enjoyed that workout, but it was the most frustrating thing because I'd like do the wall balls and it was a heavy power clean as well.
Hmm.
Then get to the handstand push-ups and then just gradually as obviously time goes on you get more and more fatigued and you think no it was kipping actually and
Oh, right. Okay.
I
Yeah.
just kept on kicking up and then coming away from the wall and just
Yeah.
no repping myself every single time. I just get really fucked off.
It's yeah, that's the thing I find quite rewarding with a lot of the CrossFit workouts. I'm quite new to it as a like
Mm,
discipline. Is doing stuff you can do but under fatigue, so you can't do it as well.
yeah.
That's like the bit where I'm like, oh yeah, that's where you get better at this shit.
Mm,
Yeah, I can do a kipping toes to bar, but can I do 5 rounds of it
yeah.
after I've been running and lifting a sandbag and I'm knackered?
Mm,
That's yeah, I like it. It's very much like a sport in that sense. Like you've got to be able to deliver the thing in the 80th minute of the rugby game as much as you can in the first minute. It probably matters more at the end than it does at the start. Yeah, interesting. Right, last one on the grind my gears, then I've got to go.
Yeah,
The one you said, so it's the same guy with the bloody carnivore ice cream sandwiches, isn't it?
that's him.
Um,
Yes,
he was like,
Carnival
my,
Ken.
my carnivore Mother's Day. So he's like, oh, here's my mum. Look how much weight she's lost. All of
Mm,
her hormone, all of her health markers have improved. I was like, yeah, it's because she's lost weight. It's nothing to do with the fucking carnivore diet.
mm,
Put her in a calorie deficit somehow.
mm,
He does his carnivore Mother's Day. So he's like basically bought he's bought a leg of lamb
mm,
and a rib of beef for two of them.
mm.
And he's like, he has something like 5 kilos or something daft of fucking meat and nothing. For a start, I was messaging you. I was like, I don't know where to start with this, but there's at least 150 quid's worth of meat there for two
Yep.
people.
Yep.
Um, and then what did they? Some sort of like, oh, I made pudding. I made her a carnivore cheesecake or something.
Yeah, right, where is
I
it?
don't know. I was like, poor mum.
Yeah.
She raised you, son. Treat her with some respect, for Christ's sake. Maybe take her out for a Nando's or something. I don't know.
You did get her flowers though,
He got her flowers.
as well as a shitload of meat.
He didn't mention whether they were carnivore flowers, though, did he?
No, this is true.
I don't know whether flowers can be carnivore. Probably. I, don't-
No, no, they're
I assume she
vegetables.
didn't eat them.
They don't like vegetables.
No,
No.
no.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I mean, it kind of didn't grind my gears because it was so stupid. But
Mm.
there are people out there, and like, you're like, is this a parody? But it's not, which is like baffling,
Uh,
baffling.
the thing that gets me the most is oh yeah, I was just looking at the cheesecake. It's basically an omelette.
Call it an omelette then.
Yeah, yeah, that's the one of the
Made a
funny.
sweet omelette.
Every time, um, I just scroll through the comment section because Instagram comments are undefeated.
I did
Uh,
really want to look through the comments, but I was
yeah,
like, I'm gonna get.
it's like well done, mate. You've done another omelette this time. It's just like that. It's hilarious.
I'm gonna go back on it and just be like, poor mum.
Yeah.
Sad emoji.
The thing that gets me the most about that upcoming recipe, carnivore chicken and ham pie. Yeah, okay.
Right.
But the thing that gets me the most about his videos is it's not necessarily the voiceover, but it's just the looks to camera with the slight smug kind of nod every now and then of like, yes, this is the shit, this is the way.
Yeah,
And that's the one thing that kind of
yeah, yeah.
irritates me a lot about him.
I did spot his profile photo as well, which is like he's got himself really lean,
Mm,
dehydrated the shit out of himself, put fake
yes.
tan on, good angle, some good lighting.
Mm,
Yeah, of course, that was all carnivore. Well done. Nothing to do with the calorie deficit and the dehydration and the good lighting and the party pump you've got on there, the
yes.
professional photographer.
Mm,
Um, yeah. Anyway,
there you go.
I'm sure he felt amazing when he was in that shape and he could perform and do running and all that sort of stuff, which
Mm,
we couldn't. Um,
no.
anyway, I'll stop moaning about a guy I've never met. But he does grind my gears since you
Mm,
introduced me to his channel.
yeah.
Right, let's leave it there.
Mm.
Any take homes from today, Josh?
Um, yeah, energy balance is
Yeah.
always the main thing. And once that's addressed, everything can fall into place.
Mm.
Well, and
Yeah.
and and if it's adhered to, yeah, that would
Yeah.
be
I think my take home would be the most likely outcome is that you're not a unique snowflake. Said with a
mm,
lot of love. Like,
yeah, yeah,
it's probably something else. Sure, if you've got to worry about something medical, go get it checked out. But
mm,
if that all checks out, hammer those basics, guys. Hammer the
yeah.
basics. Right, where can people find you on the internet, Josh?
At Josh Weebout 90 on Instagram.
Good man. And you can find me at Food Flexibility. If you've got a question for the podcast, either put it in the comments or you can email me, tim@foodflexibility.co.uk. And until next time, please remember, carbs won't make you fat.